Hi, my name is Sabrina Jurisic. I'm the Regional Film Commissioner for Upstate California Film Commission, and I'm super excited to be here tonight. We are at the State Theater in Red Bluff, and we have a couple panels. We have some members from the NorCal SAG, including Catherine Howell, Sean Taylor, and Jack Trout, who's actually a local who's been on productions here, earned his SAG membership on a production in our region. And then we have another panel with 8 members of the production team from Dresden Sun, which is the largest production that our area has seen that has based here. So they did about 80% of their production on site in Shasta County and hired locals from Tehama and Shasta County as heads of production. So they really invested a lot locally. We're excited to hear from them.
Here, I am not going to bore you and stand up here for very long. I just wanted to say I am a raving fan of the Film Commission and what they do, and all of the people that are working with the Film Commission. The Film Commission can bring a lot of money to your area, and as a Tehama County supervisor, I'm supervisor for District 2. It pleases me very much when they come to our community and choose our locations for their work. So I am very happy for them to be here. If you are an elected official and you are here, can you please stand up? So this is our home, and it's really hard to see with the light, so if there's anyone else here and I'm not recognizing you, I apologize for that. But thank you for being here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic back over to the handsomest guy in the room.
Wow. Handsomest guy in the room, I like that. Only my wife were here to hear that. Okay. We want to thank our sponsors who have gone over and above to help put this event on and make it all come together. We have Alacrity Destination Services. Give them a hand. We're going to applaud for each one. Fowler Film Productions. Travel West USA. Copy Center. Gold Exchange. I love that place because there's either gold going in or money coming out. So you don't really, I'm not sure what happens there, but I like to go there and find out. Independent Media Group, Tehama Together, and Tehama County Major Crimes Board. So yeah, don't let them know I'm here. So this is again great. It's so great that you're all here. We're going to learn so much tonight, and it's always exciting for we actor types and we who work in production and who work in the film industry to be in a location where more people do what we do. And it's not always they'll talk about this tonight, I'm sure. It's not only or always what you see in front of the camera, it's all the stuff that goes on behind the camera, you know? And yes, right. I mean, somebody has to make those cute little triangle sandwiches that I always gravitate to at the craft table, so craft service. Okay, I want to introduce now kind of the spearheader of this whole evening. Make sure you give her a large, huge round of applause for Sabrina Jurisic. I was told her to run on down that she's just getting off of crutches or something, right? So I'll just keep talking until you get here. I don't know what I'll talk about, but I can talk about my wardrobe again, you know, or how I'm losing my hair every day of my life. So Sabrina, give it up for Sabrina.
Well, welcome everybody. I am going to ask our amazing Rick in the AV booth to switch the slideshow. I wanted to just give a little update about the film industry that statewide and locally. Just for those of you who may not know, I'll wait for the slide, but I'll just keep it. So basically, you know, the film industry is a top economic driver in California. It actually ranked number 2 in 2021 between agriculture and travel and tourism. So I like people to realize that, you know, a lot of times people think filming is kind of like a hobby or may not be making that much of a difference, but it's a huge economic driver in their state. And it's growing locally. So next slide. It can go. I think you have to push the from the beginning. Sorry. So our job basically locally is to promote our area. So in case, I know a lot of you have worked with the Film Commission, but for those who haven't, What we do is we're the primary marketing entity for our region and the liaison to the film industry. So when they have an idea and they're looking for locations, or they're looking for local cast and crew, or lodging, or any of that kind of stuff, they contact us. We're members of several professional organizations, and we get leads through those, and it also adds to the credibility when there's people who are looking to film in our area that we're dedicated and specifically serving their needs. Next slide. Next slide, please. One more, thank you. So these are just some of the services we provide. We attend industry events on behalf of the area. We place advertisements. We put together quarterly reports. So we actually have an annual report out on the table if anybody's interested in numbers and things like that, what's happening in more detail than what I'm going to share tonight on here. But some of the ones that are top highlights is our number of production charts. So you can see that from 2014, when the Film Commission was established, we kind of had an ongoing, upward tick. And then obviously COVID impacted our community. But what was amazing was that we actually were continuing to see an increase in the economic impact that was happening despite the lower number of productions, because what was coming was staying here longer and spending more money. So even though we had a downturn, we still had an uptick on the money that was staying here and the jobs being hired and all that. So last year we had 41 projects film in our community, and speaking of, I have one here about COLAs. So I'm actually chair of the California On Location Award Show in LA, which is the largest event recognizing location managers. And we have 2 finalists in the room that were recognized from among their peers as achieving greatness in that. And it was for the Dresden Sun, Logan Banner and Jessica Bigby. So obviously, high-level achievement, just to be recognized for that. So congratulations on that. We look forward to hearing how they did that later on tonight. So next slide, please. And I do not do this alone. My position is one, but it really takes a community. And I also just want to say a special thank you to my assistant, Kate English, who many of you might have been interviewed by tonight, but she really just has been amazing. And as he said, I broke my hip earlier this year, and she just stepped in and did amazing to keep us moving forward. So I just wanted to acknowledge her. And then our committee members, so we have several committee members in the room. If you could wave your hands, and okay, they are all so shy. I just want to thank you all for everything that you've done to put energy into tonight, and all you do all the time to support. So anyways, we're going to get on with that.
Okay.
Back to Dan.
Give it up for Sabrina. Now, I did forget to mention something at the very beginning. I want to say it now to make sure that I comply with all the rules. We're asking that you, first of all, put your cell phones on silent so they're not going to ring during the event. I think all of us know to do that when we're in a theater setting. But just in case somebody's never been in the theater, try to remember to do that. And then also, no filming or audio recording, okay? Especially during our panel discussions and during a featurette we're going to have a little bit later on. We just want no filming of anything taking place. And I've been told that if Sabrina sees you pull out a camera to film something, a phone, she's going to be running over on her hobbled leg to yank it out of your hand. So make sure you comply with that rule. Okay, are you ready to get going? We have a great panel discussion coming up right now. I'm going to introduce our panel. I'm going to call them to the stage, and as they're coming up and finding their seats, and panel, if you guys could take these first 3 seats, that would be great. Unless you really have to sit with a chair between each other, I don't really care. We'll find you one way or the other. But so I want to call up Catherine Howell. So give her a hand. Sean Taylor and Jack Pratt. So there's information on all of them out in the lobby, I think, and also on IMDb. But let me just talk a little bit. Catherine is a lifelong actor who has played a wide variety of character roles on stage and in film and on television. Catherine received her BFA degree in theater from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and was awarded a full scholarship for advanced study at American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. That's pretty cool. Catherine is a lifelong member of Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. I'm glad they shortened that to SAG-AFTRA. And Actors Equity Association, AEA. She received her AEA card in New York's Vivian Beaumont Theater. And like I said, there's more information on her and the rest out there in the lobby, and I think on IMDb. Sean Taylor, wait, Sean, where's Sean? Oh, you guys can all come up and sit down. Yeah. I need to wait for your name to be called. Yeah. I love, Sabrina said, oh, they're all shy. Aren't we like actors and we work in the industry, we're shy? Man, I've been yelled at for not being shy. We have Sean Taylor, Executive Director. Sean joined SAG-AFTRA San Francisco, Northern California local as the Executive Director in the fall of 2016. And during his tenure, he has served as a lead negotiator in numerous broadcast collective bargaining agreements for Chicago, New York, and LA. Sean also served as senior counsel for the Chicago Park District, where he negotiated several different union collective bargaining agreements. He's done a lot of stuff. And then finally, we have Jack Trout. He's an actor, American actor, who has been involved in the film industry for over 25 years. He had a role in a new thriller, Peter 5-8, that's being released the summer of 2023, and also appears in the hit 10-episode series called The Offer. In 2010, Jack, yes. In 2020, Jack appeared in the award-winning commercial by Atlantic Land Rover Defender, Go Outside with John Mayer, and then again in the commercial, John Mayer Knows Computer Lingo. So now you're getting John Mayer pretty tight, right? Yeah, okay. So this is our panel tonight, and please give them a hand. And, so we have a series of questions for you guys, and it'll really help if, as you talk about these questions, just grab the mic, and because I don't know if it'll pick you up where you're sitting, but grab it and we'll talk into it, and we'll offer some commentary and answers to these questions. And we will also have a Q&A at the end of this. If any of you have questions, I think we have 1 or 2 mics that'll be roaming around. If you have a question, at the end, I'll say it's question time. You throw your hand up or stand up, and we'll get a mic to you. So here's the first question, and Jack, you might want to talk about this before the others, but what is SAG, and what are the benefits of being a member?
Okay, well, the Screen Actors Guild, and there's numerous benefits ever since I was able to join, and that was because of the movie Peter 5-8. You get signed what's called a Taft-Hartley form, and that actually allows you to become a member of SAG. And since then, I've been able to go down to pre-screening events, like one in San Francisco with called Spencer, and it was with Kristen Stewart, and we actually, got to. She was on stage just like we are, speaking, and it really gave me a lot of confidence, and it gave me insight into how building relationships in the film industry is so important. In addition to that, it allows me to go down to LA and Hollywood, and I got to meet Adam Sandler a few months ago and screen the movie Hustle. I met numerous actors there, producers and directors, and in addition to that, just being able to get the information that SAG sends out. They're constantly, sending us information on watching videos and Zoom events that will further our career. Basic contract type of information that we get online. A lot of it right now, because of COVID, has been limited, but I found that by going either to San Francisco or down south, there's all kinds of benefits that I've had as pretty much a short-time actor. Most of the acting I did was on ESPN as myself, as a fly fishing guy. And fly fishing got me into acting. And after John Mayer called, and I did the 2 commercials with him, I was like, oh boy, I don't want to squander this opportunity. So I started looking for film commissions in my area, and that's when I found Sabrina. And she helped me put up a profile page, which ultimately led to me getting this role with the 2-time Oscar winner and Rebecca De Mornay, and allowed me to join SAG. So that's the first thing that you want to do, is find a way that you can get into SAG, because it's a stepping stone. Well, I have an audition with Universal Studios on March 30th, so there you go.
So here's a question that probably Catherine and Sean might want to answer or be able to speak to. How many members are in the region? Just pull it hard. There you go.
Okay, I'm not technically proficient. In the entire, our entire local, which actually covers from Fresno to the Oregon border, it's approximately 4,500 members.
Great.
Yeah, we are one of the 3 largest locals outside of Los Angeles and New York. There are 25 locals in the entire union, and 23 of them are outside of Los Angeles and New York, covering the entire country, covering Alaska, covering Puerto Rico.
That's great. Sean, anything to add on that?
No, except for we do have 160,000 members nationally as well.
Okay, cool. All right, here's another question, and I guess anybody can answer this. Does becoming a member limit opportunity on projects that aren't union?
I would reverse that. Not becoming a member limits your opportunities on doing professional work and work that's going to be seen in a widespread way. And if you want to win your Oscar, you've got to be in the union. And there are, of course, a lot of non-union things that are done. But it's important to be in the union. A little story about commercials. So the gal who plays Fran on the Progressive commercials.
Flo.
Flo, I always get that mixed up, Flo. The story is, I don't know this 100% sure, but I've been told this, that she was not the first person cast in that role. Somebody else was cast in that role, but it turned out that somebody else had done a non-union commercial for an insurance company. She was completely unable to do that. So it's a risk that you take if in the commercial world. If you've done something for a competitor, you won't be available to do something for the larger company.
And if I may, the point of that story is Flo has made, I don't know how much in residuals, but the person who originally was cast for that position, because she had done something else and she was exclusive, was, couldn't do the Progressive. I think it's Progressive.
Yeah.
Is it? She couldn't do it, and not only could she not do it, she didn't get residuals for the non-union gig she did. So it kind of cuts your options.
As an actor, you have to do everything. If you have an opportunity to join SAG, you'd be a fool not to do it, because you have so many opportunities just waiting for you. I receive numerous emails of events that I can attend where I can network. It's all networking. It's all meeting people and getting them to know you. And by doing those things and being in SAG, this has allowed me to further this career that I'm really searching out. And besides the support of SAG, the people that are around you in the industry acknowledge it. And that's why, I think that anything that you could do when somebody's talking to you about, should I do this or should I do that, you should do everything. because that's the way that you'll make it. And it's really fun. You know, it's been a fun ride, and just keep it going.
Yeah, it's really not a Lone Ranger kind of industry, is it? I mean, you want to meet everybody. You know, I like to meet everybody on the set. So, okay, another question. What efforts are being made to secure jobs in Northern California?
Everything we can. You will see some flyers out there in the lobby that we created, from our board members created, promoting filming in Northern California, with a quote from Francis Ford Coppola about how wonderful our talent is. We have a separate one that's very, very similar, but it's specific to the Central Bay Area. And we do things like go out at events like this. And I'm going to the Sonoma Film Festival next week, and we network, and we let people know that there are there is a lot of talent here, and they should look here first, because there is a tendency for people to just say, oh, all the talent's in Los Angeles, and then fly them up here. And so they're paying extra money for their travel, for their housing, and for their per diem, when they can find perfectly wonderful actors in Northern California.
And plus, when you make over $25,000 in the industry gross, then you can join the health plan. They have an excellent health plan, and also you really have an opportunity to have some residual income down the road. And you know, you can do a film, but without having the SAG endorsement, you have no guarantee in the future. And so that's something that, you know, you can always look forward to, that, yeah, you pay a percentage through SAG, but it's very minimal. And the dues annually, just to get the films I get in the mail to be on the awards committee, it's fascinating. You know, it's something that you have inside. Some people that you know, you got a brother, you got somebody, oh, I don't like Hollywood. And then you say, well, oh, wow, you don't watch movies?
Yeah.
Well, oh, yeah, you know, but honestly, there's some out there, I know you have that inside you, you have that feeling, you just go for it, because SAG's there. They won't let you down, and that's your goal.
And I would just add, having been in the union for many, many decades, those residuals are very important, and they are automatically calculated by the union, and now we have direct deposit if you choose to get it that way. And I am collecting a SAG pension. It's SAG-AFTRA is the name of the union, but the pension is separate, so the pension is called just the SAG pension.
Great.
Dan, if I can,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to add one more thing to how you get, production up here and how there's more work for our members. I think this is how you do it. You have events like this, and you all show up, and you express your interests, and you invite people, and you promote it. You work with local film commissions, you work with the California Film Commission. That's how it happens. It happens, it's incremental, but every step is a positive step in the direction you need to go to get the interest of producers to come here and film, for whatever reason it may be. It could be cost, it could be the talent pool. It's beautiful up here. It's not expensive. If you can get more local tax incentives, that's a way. You should all visit our website, SAG-AFTRA, also our YouTube stations. We have so many videos, not just of staff, but of members and people who are in the industry who know what it takes. There's a lot of production going on in Georgia now. That's kind of a new thing. That's the last, 20 years? And it's because of the Georgia tax incentives, and that's how it starts. Yes, a lot of production will always take place in New York and Los Angeles, but we're seeing more and more production not happening in those localities, but happening outside. And so you have to keep doing things like this, because what is it? Fill the dreams. If you build it, they will come. And it's true. I've seen it in a lot of places. I guess I'm old enough to remember when Sundance was a new thing, right? So it's not that old. So you've already started, just keep up the good work and just keep letting people know you're here and you're interested, and it'll pay off. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon.
Yeah, for sure. Get involved, because this area, think about it. We have all the areas in the world right here. You could film a movie for Australia. We could do Norway. We got the Pacific Ocean out towards Humboldt. We are a reason that Tinseltown should be looking our way in the future. All of us, all of our talents together, that we push the North State to get them up here, because once they're here, it's cheaper to operate up here. And there's hardly no traffic compared to down there. And we have a great pool of actors all around here, people that are deep in the canyons in Northern California, looking up at the stars, trying to learn the Milky Way. We got it right here in Northern California. It's waiting for you.
Yeah, you're right about the traffic. I lived in LA, but when we first moved here, I pulled in during rush minute. So, okay, here's a question we've kind of touched on. But let's get some more details on this. How is the experience different working on a SAG versus non-SAG production? So how is the experience different?
Well, I haven't worked on a non-union production in many decades, but everybody is very professional on the set. A lot of respect from the crew and the director, and everything runs quite well. Your meals are on time, and your overtime is paid correctly, and then you get your residuals.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about when you said the word professional, and somebody else said that earlier. That's what it is. It's professional. You are treated well. And, you know, if you're an on-talent, if you're on-screen talent, or anything in the production, I don't know, we should be treated well for what we're doing. You know, we're hauling cables, or we're designing sets, or we're preparing the food, whatever it is. We're not just a bunch of grunts that are, you know, pulled together like the old Andy Hardy movies, right? Put it together in the barn. We're actually doing something that's going to end up either on a big screen or television, so we should be treated right. Yeah.
When I worked on the set on Paramount Plus for The Offer, they only checked my gun like 6 times. I don't know why.
Anyway, so things don't always go well on set. In case they don't, though, we as staff will get a phone call. We do set visits all the time. We have set reps throughout the country. In addition, we have over 400 professional staff that handle various things that SAG-AFTRA has in its jurisdiction. But if there's a problem, we know about it right away. We'll file a claim, we'll investigate it. If you're owed back pay, if you're owed an upgrade, if you're working too long of a day, you have resources. You have staff that will come to your assistance. We're always filing, if we have, we have a good relationship. Our former national executive director, David White, used to say, we want to be easy to work with and hard to fight. So yes, Kevin's right. It's a pretty good, you have some pretty good days working on a SAG-AFTRA set compared to a non-union set. But if you don't, we have your back.
That's great. Do we have time for one more question before the Q&As? I didn't see anybody wave me, so I'm assuming we're... What resources are available to filmmakers? Can you just touch on some of those? What resources are available? I have a couple mentioned here, but I'll let you guys talk first.
Resources, mention your couple, so
Yeah.
tell me what direction you're going here.
Yeah, I think the two that are on my list are the member project code.
Okay.
You probably want to speak to. You want to speak
All
to
right, yes, I want to speak to contracts.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, in general. So there are tiered layers of contracts from just talking about the theatrical side, because there's also the commercial side and the industrial side, which is like in-house training videos and things like that. But on the film and television side, there's the major contract, which is what the major films are on, the basic, it's called the Codified Basic Agreement. Then there are various tiers of other agreements. from the low budget to the ultra low budget to the modified low budget to the micro budget to the student film agreement, etc. And those are all listed on, if you go on SAG-INDI, as in independent films, SAGINDI, and you click on become a signatory, just to take you to the page, it will list all of those contracts with different tiers of payment, depending on the budget, and different incentives that you can get. You have diversity in casting, you can get an incentive to bring down your budget a little bit. So SAGND.org, and click on become signatory, and you can, please pass this information along. You can look and see if anybody has a project, what tier they would fall under, and how easy it is to produce on a SAG-AFTRA contract.
Great. Before we go to audience questions, anything else you want to say, either about resources or anything else we talked about, or you're just itching to share with the audience? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm just honored to be on the stage with Catherine Howe because she's the only person I think in this room that's been held at gunpoint by Sean Penn in the movie. Anyway, it's a real pleasure. You know, she's also been in films with John Hurd, and she is our president of SAG, and I'm proud. I'm really proud to have both of them here. Let's give them a hand.
Yeah. All right, so now if anybody has questions, just stand up and one of our roving mics will come to you. We have a few minutes for this, so we don't have to rush them, but anybody have a question you want to ask our panel? Turn the lights up. Okay, go ahead, yeah. And why don't you tell us your name and maybe what you do and then your question?
Well, I'd prefer not to tell my name because I'm on America's Most Wanted.
Got it. Okay.
You know, 35 years ago, I told my wife that I was going to be a stand-up comedian. And she said, well, you have the stand-up part down, so I'm trying to wonder how I can be a comedian.
Well, this isn't really a comedy forum, but if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll tell you what I did, and then, you know, you can pay me $50 and we'll go from there. So,
I'm a sit-down comic.
there you go, great. So anything related to our topic of film tonight? Any other questions that we have? Yeah, right here. There are a couple of them right here.
First of all, I want to say thank you for coming here and saying this. This is like I'm glad there's more proximity being laid out to the area, and there's more people. Yeah, you people are great, by the way. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to talk to you, and so I know the Screen Actors Guild is a really big. I think it's played a great role in the entire industry and such. And I also want to. How is it? So is it? I know it's mainly focused on. There was something about radio arts and the huge. It is a big title, and I also was interested in seeing how it expands to also production capabilities as well, where it's tend to have a focus on the actors of the entire. Like how does that spread out, and if there's these other layers on top of it, as it does take a village to get a film made. What projects do you genuinely look for?
So that's a lot of things. Are you with her? Okay, go ahead.
Not all the whole thing, but
Yeah,
all
right.
the radio thing and the name of our union. I wanted to give a little background on that. So the name of the union is SAG-AFTRA because two unions were Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Radio Artists, before there was television, were both formed in the 30s. And SAG covered, on-screen film, and AFRA covered things on the radio. Then along came television, and which is a whole different thing. And so we shared jurisdiction, and it was worked out that if it was filmed, it would be on a SAG contract, and if it was taped, it would be under an AFTRA contract. Then along came digital, and everything was just like, which one of us is going to cover it? And there became some tensions between the two unions, even though we're sister unions. And we had tried to merge the two unions several times over the decades. And finally, 10 years ago, we did merge them. So that's what the AFTRA and SAG-AFTRA is all about.
And just to add, I think another layer to your question. So the after side of it is TV and radio artists. So we represent broadcasters. We have 250 separate broadcast contract, collective bargaining agreements across the country. So when we say broadcast, we generally talk TV, news, radio stations. We also represent recording artists. We also represent folks who do audiobooks and voiceover work. And a lot of that stuff is self-produced, especially with the changes in technology. So we represent so many things, puppets, people with faces and names in front of and behind the cameras. So there are a lot of categories which we represent. Dancers, we represent influencers, and YouTube we have integrated. So as technology unfolds and more people are doing work that, again, voices and faces, we are covering, or trying to cover that work.
Great. Did that answer your question? Good. Thank you very much. Okay, who else? Somebody over here. Stand up and, yeah, thank you.
How's it going? My name is Clint. My question is, as a musician and an actor, how would I go about joining the union? I have this unexplainable desire to be heard and like seen. How's it going, everybody? I don't know what else to say other than that. But that's my question. Kind of nervous too, so.
Okay, well, I can't address the musician part of it because I don't have experience in that. But to join SAG-AFTRA, you would either need to be hired in the background on a covered production for 3 separate dates.
I was on one, the American Underdog, Zach Levi, so I gotta do like 2 more.
Then you're a third of the way there. So that was background work. And they give you a voucher to sign? Sort of like a mini contract?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so keep those vouchers. Actually, the vouchers are available electronically now. So if you have 3 of those, then you are eligible to join it as an initiation fee in our local. It's different in locals depending on the size of the local and how much income there is coming in from the local. But in our local, it's $1,800 one-time fee. And the other way would be to get cast in a principal role, a speaking role. And then you're automatically eligible to join. And the third way, which may not apply to anybody here, is if you are a member of one of the sister unions, like Actors Equity for Stage, and what's AGMA, which is AGMA. American Guild of Variety Artists. Okay. So anyway, so if you're in the ballet, for example, if you're a member of that union, I don't think you look up like a ballet, but those are all the various ways that you become eligible. It sounds like you're a third of the way there on your background vouchers.
That's great.
Thank you. And also, if you get in any production, you're always looking to get the Taft-Hartley form signed. That's the form that you want to get signed to join SAG, to be eligible. 3 background parts or 1 speaking role. So, you're not just coming into a production and letting the cards fall. You're always looking. You're a noticer. Mark Twain was a great noticer of his era. You want to become that person and do everything you can in your power to make it happen. Don't listen to anybody else. Just do it. You know you have it in your head, you have it in your heart, and you can do it. But it's the Taft-Hartley form. That's what you want to get signed.
Great. Well, do we have time for another question? Are we good on time? Yeah, okay. Back there.
Retired media professional looking to get mainstream. I did nonprofit for 25 years. So, you might just answer my question.
That was the answer.
That might have been the answer, yeah.
Oh, okay.
When you say media professional, are you talking broadcast, you're talking
Radio,
yeah, radio?
video education.
Yeah.
Duke County for 25 years.
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, I hate to keep sending people to our website, but go to our website. We do have a lot of YouTube videos about content creators.
Okay.
So one of the areas we're trying to expand our jurisdiction are podcasts. So that's one avenue. But there's also, TV, radio stations. I'm drawing a blank, but as I said,
We did lots of cross-cultural work.
Okay.
So that's why it's like, okay, my product's nice, but I want to go to mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah, I would look into the area of podcasts. That seems the most ubiquitous way that people are finding ways to become mainstream. If their podcast to be picked up. And again, maybe a local radio station. There aren't any SAG-AFTRA stations up here, but that's fine. We don't have universal coverage. SAG-AFTRA, all the states are TV and news, but it's a good place to get started because most of our members started in a non-union station, a non-union shop.
You mentioned that Georgia offered tax incentives and such to bring production there. Is there anything that the local communities up there, Taylor County, Shasta County, et cetera, is there any incentives that you can think of that would help bring production up to this area?
I would ask Sabrina to answer that question.
Is Sabrina running to a mic? Is that what you're doing, Sabrina? There you go.
Yeah, it is.
Is it on?
Yeah.
So we have had a local incentive program since 2018. It's fairly small. Most SAG projects would laugh at us for it, but we get a lot of independent filmmaking done up here, and so they're grateful for any return on whatever they're spending here. So it's a direct cash rebate. It's not like a tax credit or anything like that, like the state has. But obviously, the state of California does have a tax credit program that is very much about job ratio. So it goes to the larger projects or those that are hiring a lot of locals. But for our area right now, we have a $25,000 cap on productions. And basically, it's a percentage of what they're spending. It's a $10 per room night that they are staying in a hotel. And then we cover 100% of their permit fees for public spaces. So we do have one, it's just small.
Great. Yeah, I think, do we have time for one more question, Sabrina?
I believe so.
Okay, great. Yes.
Hi, I'm Johnny Draco. I'm SAG-AFTRA, and I worked in LA and New York. Recently, I just reinstated my membership, and I was kind of led off track with this whole COVID thing, so I didn't show up to a few of the events that we had. Because of that, I'm thinking that I just turned away because I didn't take the jab. So, what's your foresight on that in the future? I'm sure there are a couple of variables, but what's your foresight on going to events and just showing up and not being documented, so to speak?
I got the short straw on that. So, it's up to the national board. They make the decisions on our policies. Right now, we have the policy that you have to be vaccinated and events. I don't know what's going to happen. I think we all hope there's a day when we're in a post-COVID world, and I think that will happen. We did have our SAG viewing party. And most of the people were vaccinated. For those folks who couldn't get vaccinated, what we had is they had to show a negative test 72 hours beforehand. So we're moving in a direction where more and more people can do things. We just opened our offices January 30th, so we haven't been back. Staff hasn't. So we're slowly moving in that direction. So hopefully soon. And I wish I could give you a more definitive answer, but I don't want to get ahead of myself.
So basically, just show up and see how your chances go.
No, we have to register, but I can tell you we don't have anything that's coming up anyway. We're still slowly kind of, I don't want to get into a long explanation, but post-merger we had a period of moderation. So what that meant is because we don't have a lot of resources and we're still down a lot of staff, we're trying not to do as many things, public events. But we, staff, and Catherine, are able to come to events like this, and that's where we're putting our focus. People who feel comfortable coming out to attend events like this, we're making ourselves available. And hopefully soon, we will be able to have more events, SAG-AFTRA sponsored events where folks can show up. And we won't have to worry about the testing and the vaccinations.
I'd say also, in the meantime, if you have a specific event that you want to know about, that you could always contact our office via email. If you just go on the SAG-AFTRA website and under the San Francisco, Northern California local, you will see all the contact information for staff.
Yeah, or maybe just show up with a negative test. But also down south, they're not requiring masks at SAG events, the screenings, and up north, they're doing, less projects right now, but, in the future, of course, it's going to, dissipate and get better. But all in all, everything's worthwhile. And if you ever need help, I'm up in Mount Shasta, and that's for any of you out there. Jack Trout, Mount Shasta, I'm in the phone book, give a call. I mean, it's all relationships.
You'll teach everybody how to fish, right?
Yeah, I'll take you out fly fishing. Everything's the guide's fault, no extra charge.
Okay, I think we're done with our Q&A. Can you give the medal hand? Now we have something very special as the panel leaves. And at the end of the night, there's going to be some networking, and they'll be sticking around to say hi to you, I believe. And I know that there's information out there for you. But we have a very special treat now for you. It's a featurette. It's the Dresden Sun behind the scenes featurette. So let's watch that now and enjoy that. I don't know about you guys, but isn't it always inspiring to see something like that and just to know what goes on in the background and in front of the camera to create a film like this or a project like this? It was great. Let's give it up again. That was great. So we're going to have a panel discussion now about Dresden Sun, and leading that is going to be Sabrina. So let's welcome Sabrina and the panel up. It's on that panel. Come on up.
While they're all getting onto the stage, I just want to share, I had the honor of being part of the talks of this for a very long time, and I know that there was discussion about taking the project elsewhere, and they came and did a scout in our area, and I have to say it was like one of the most fun scouts, watching Michael, the talk about his dream for sure. I mean, we would be in locations and I could just see where he would just be like, okay, this is it. And one of the things that was really special about it too was that even though he had very clear vision, what I saw was the members of the team that were part of the scout oftentimes would contribute something, and he really listened, which I don't see a lot in directors. A lot of times it's just their way and you better not. And so it was really neat to see that kind of respect for his team. So I thank you all for being here. I thank you for taking over our downtown and Civic and every neighborhood, it seemed like, for quite a while. So what I'm going to do is a little bit different than what Dan did with his panel. I'd like you to, if we could start with Michael, just share your name, your role, and maybe even like if there's other things that you've done in the industry, just abbreviate, but like what led you to work on this kind of project?
This one?
Well, this one, yeah. You probably have a long answer for that.
Probably. Yeah. I've been doing it since I was a kid, so.
Yeah.
Ideas ultimately lead people to make films. So there's a lot of ideas in this one in particular that took a long time to develop, to put into a story. So, where did I start? Oh, yeah, sorry. My name is Michael Ryan. Hello. So yeah, I wrote it, directed, produced with Tyler, of course. I'm also the DP and the editor, and I do visual effects and stuff like that on this. So that was pretty much my role in this. But it's part of a larger story that I've been working on for a very long time. So it took a long time to get this film off the ground. Yeah, and I'm still knee deep in it right now in post. So I've just been working constantly on it. But that's okay. I've done probably about 50 drafts just to get the script where it was. So at least 50. Drafts sometimes aren't total rewrites. Sometimes they're like you change a scene or whatnot. It's not like you rewrite 120 pages. But on this particular one, I did rewrite quite a bit. Anyway, so that's that's where I started on this. Started writing it actually back in 2008. We did a promo. That's how I met Tyler. And Tyler was an actor with a few other friends of mine, and I was already trying to develop it. It was based on a previous script that I was working on, and then it evolved. And I wrote the very first draft at the very beginning of 2009. Finished it anyway. I was working on it in 2008. Anyway, I'll ramble too long, so anything else? So, yeah, of course.
My name is Tyler Lockamy. I was the executive producer on this film. Been working with Michael for quite a long time. But where I got started was, I'm from here, from Shasta County. I grew up in Whitmore, which is a little hill town. Moved to Los Angeles when I was 21. Started doing some acting. Kind of fell into a groove as a server. Really did not like the auditioning process. When I met Michael, it kind of, something kind of sparked off that, I could just put myself in my own stuff. I don't even have to audition for it. So that's kind of what we ended up doing early on. The first film that we ended up making up here, this is our second film that we've made in Reading, actually. And so the first one I didn't really put myself in. I ended up in it, but you can't see me, I have a mask on. And that was only out of necessity. This film, I actually got to reprise my role that I originally played in the promo that we did like 15 years ago. So, we rewrote it and kind of made it fit in this new little world that we created. But acting has always been a passion. Done a lot of stage theater, stage work here in town, a little bit down in LA as well, and directed a short film. I know, I should put that on my resume, I'm a director. But that's kind of where I went and what I did. And it's always been a dream to be able to do something of this scale up here specifically. I think in today's world, you do not have to be in Los Angeles or New York or Georgia or New Mexico or Vancouver to do something like this. I think you can, if you can find a really solid team, it makes the difference. Luckily, I have an amazing wife that I get to rope into these crazy little adventures. And I've met all of these people along the way. And as we were putting this film together, I was like, who can build sets? Oh, Jesse. And now he's like, son, But Logan and I, we've been friends since 8th grade. He was the best man at my wedding. You know, and he came on as a location manager. Jessica Fletcher, met you way back when, theater, right? Abigail is a recent, acquaintance and now a good friend and doing really amazing stuff at Axiom Theater in Reading. And Jessica Bigby, the person that cut all our checks. So, yeah.
I met you drunk at a party.
I jumped into the Fall River in my underwear in front of Jessica Bigby. That was fun. It was a lot of fun. Those are good days. So, but I'll hand it over to my wife, Anne-Marie.
Hi. So, Anne-Marie Lockamy. I was the production coordinator and co-producer on the film. This is the second production that I did with these two. Little did I realize that in the fine print of our wedding vows, I would be sucked into every production or anything from there on out. I just love spreadsheets, you know, nothing like a good spreadsheet. So, and it works out, it pays off for these two in production. So yeah, I'm trying to think, so yeah, the two productions, and then that's really the most experience I have in it. I was not anything into acting or anything like that, but just recently became, well, I guess I got the theater bug is what they call it, is being part of, one, actually taking on whatever fill-in roles they needed on the film. I was thrown into that as well. But then also doing theater. So I've gotten into it a little bit more, but, and what? And I'm SAG. I swore my way into SAG, so that was the big,
producer, that's why.
The big hit. Kind of know the producer, but yeah, so it's been really a fun road.
Hey everyone, I'm Logan Banner, and Tyler spilled the beans. Yeah, we've been friends together a long time, since 8th grade. And so my role in film has been really short-lived. Actually, the first thing I did ever on screen was for the previous movie that Tyler and Michael did in Reading, Interpreters, which is on Amazon Prime still, right? Yeah, it's still on there. So if you want to see me on screen, you know, I'm there, kind of.
In the shadows.
A little bit. Yeah. But Sabrina mentioned earlier that, you know, for the work on this film, myself and Jessica, who's part of the location team also, we were not only nominated but finalists for the COLA Awards, and so that was in December down in LA at the Hilton Universal City. So if you just Google COLA Awards and that website, they did a really nice article. I was blessed to also be interviewed for that, and I just want to leave all my experience from the movie. They did a really good job in that article, so you definitely just look up that, and kind of gives you more insight. And I can expand if anyone has questions, but that's just really what it was like being a first-time location manager. And there's a great featurette. There's a gentleman in there that I think has been doing it for like 30 years, and so it's kind of like the vet and the new guy. So it's a cool juxtaposition of, you know, experience in the industry. So yeah, that's it.
Hi, my name is Jesse Myers. I was a production designer. I started out doing theater. That's what I do still. That's my big thing, is theater. And down in LA, I couldn't make money as an actor in theater, so I started building sets and designing sets for theater. And then I came up here, met Tyler, and just we did it. We really, it was really interesting, and it was fun. It was good. It was trying to blend my theater knowledge. It was really hard. Trying to blend my theater knowledge with the film knowledge that I had gained as well. It was a really exciting, fun, difficult thing. But it's so glad that I was able to do it with all the great people I was working with Michael as the director and Tyler as our producer. It was an amazing time.
I am Jessica Fletcher, and I was assistant to production designer and set decorator. I've been involved in theater for a really long time. I'm an actor, director, and educator in Reading and Shasta County. Teach at Shasta College as well in the theater department. And Tyler and I met through theater several years ago and had done a recent production, Spam-A-Lot, through Axiom. And yeah, it was like, what are you doing? Oh, I might be making a film. Yeah, let's get me involved in that somehow. Let's do that. So kind of wormed my way in there. Yeah, this was a new experience. I'd worked on smaller films before, but to work on a bigger production budget like this was a very incredible experience. I really enjoyed it, and it was not anything of what I expected a film set life to be like. And you're with everybody all the time. It was relatively a small production crew, and so I think we really got to know one another well, and we had to learn to communicate with one another. And with COVID going on, there were a lot of obstacles, but I feel like overall it was a really positive experience, and I'm really grateful for it. Thank you.
My name is Abigail Young, and I am a costume designer, but this was actually my first film ever. So I usually specialize in alterations, and I do theater, but I was scouted out by Tyler at the Reading Fashion Alliance, which is a nonprofit, and I came aboard, and I had no idea the lingo of film. I had no idea how to, I guess, work with actors. I started as a set costumer, so that was really good to learn it. And then I transitioned into assistant costume designer. So I was able to craft things and create things on the fly. You really have to use like a different side of your brain because it has to be fast sometimes. But everyone was super easy to work with, and it made the experience so enjoyable. And I would definitely do it again, and I'm so appreciative to be with this film group.
I am Jessica Bigby, and like I said, I met Tyler a ways back ago, but it was just, like as Jack was mentioning, just networking, just a random person at a party. But a lot of fun, he was a hoot. And then I was tasked with producing a Food Network pilot, and it was up in this area. We filmed in Chico, Reading, Orland, and Maxwell. And I kind of was looking for a team, and I wanted to do local, and I contacted Tyler. He was actually, I think you had just moved back. Yeah. And he connected me with Michael, and I had an amazing first entrance into this weird world, and they mentored me the whole time, and it was great. So then they get to the movie, and they're like, how do you feel? I'm a CPA. They're like, how do you feel about coming on and doing this? I'm like, oh, okay. And it was way harder than I thought it was going to be, but it was I had a blast. Yeah, and then I kind of, through principal production, became the fixer just from having local contacts. The fixer, that was the LA team called me the fixer. And then I had the opportunity to UPM the latter portion, and that was incredibly stressful.
Thank you all for sharing all of that. So I wanted to ask, and again, going back, each of you, because there's a lot of relationship building that has happened here. I actually think 3 of you were on the interpreters panel, right? So Michael, Tyler, and Anne-Marie. Yeah. So obviously I know you're very connected, the 3 of you. But you had to bring in some new team members for this particular project. So how, some of these were relationships. So how did you, and you were very intentional about hiring local. I remember that being a big focus, which meant that you brought on some people that may not have had the experience that typically comes with that position. So you were investing some of your time with that as well. So how did you discover members of your overall team? And what did you do during the process to keep those relationships strong?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, you know, when you're going through and you know you have to build sets, you know you need to get people here. Yeah, you just kind of, you fill those, you identify what people or what positions you need, and then you start to kind of go through your Rolodex in your head of people that could potentially do it. And everybody that's up here, I knew could do it. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but I knew they could do it. And it's because I've known them in one way or another to do what it is that I wanted them to do. So they've done it before. You know, Logan with organizing certain things. He's a very organized gentleman who's the class president in high school. And I was like, dude, you would be great making sure that these locations get their contract signed. You know, he's local to here, so he's familiar with the area. So I knew that he was capable of it. He'd never done it before, but he was up for it, and I'm so happy that he was up for it. You know, Jesse, we did a play with Fletcher as well, Spamalot, in Reading, and Jesse built the sets for that, and I was like, like, how would you like to build 17 sets in not enough time, and the warehouse is going to be too small? And he was like, hell yeah.
We made it work.
We made it work, but by the skin of our teeth. So, you know, he was capable, and I wanted to keep as much local talent as possible. Not only cost, but I wanted people in the community to experience this. I wanted to show that it's possible to do. You know, so everybody that's up here is capable of doing what it is that they were tasked to do in the film, even though it was their first time. And I was friends with them already. So, you know, it was, yeah, and then, you know, we filled other roles as we had to. Michael's got a lot of connections as well. And, you know, these people are up here because they're friends, you know, so we are, yeah, we're tight. So, and it's war, you know, film, not to compare us, what we do to what real soldiers do, but it feels like it. You're in battle. It's hard. You're in the trenches. It's really, really difficult, and you will end up having people that you don't get along with. Yeah, it's just really important, you know, to have people that you trust. So, yeah, they're friends.
And for me, you know, just to kind of piggyback on what he was saying, the fact that we all kind of were already familiar with each other, we respected each other, we trusted each other, we were therapists for each other in moments where we were just starting to crack in the trenches. And I think we all knew what that end goal was, and that was to finish this film. And with that underlying just end goal in mind, no matter what was going down, we were going to get through it because we had each other, we could talk to each other, we could literally put it all out on the table with each other, and we still knew that we would get through. And I think that's the key thing, is you really have to know your team, trust your team, and have the same vision of where you want to get to in the end. And that definitely helped us when times got just a little rougher than we anticipated. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see. How many of you have worked on a film set, and I think some of you answered this, but before this particular project? And did you feel like outside of that, you were just hired, or like, I know that the relationships obviously, for what you do on daily, how did you manage that if you hadn't been on a set before and this was your first set? How did you manage what you normally do, like your day job, and then 14-hour days times X amount of weeks times, if this was your first experience?
Well, since this was my first experience, I never worked long days. So it was kind of like a giant slumber party with a bunch of people, but we're all focused. And it was almost like a hive. And each of us had our own positions. We had our own things we were good at. Everyone was important, so you had to show up, you had to be there. It was just really comfortable to do it. And just to create things and watch it all work as one was the most rewarding thing. And it's hard to go back into the regular life sometimes when you get caught up in this world, because you do create a world.
It was hard. I have 2 kids. I was trying to manage a lot. But I was also working more on the pre-production side of things with set building and set decorating, so I didn't have to be there during the day as much when filming actually started. I had to be there kind of the last of all the set crew to get in there, and then before everybody else got in there to start lighting and making it ready to film. So it was an interesting situation to be waiting on one team to finish and then having to be in a rush to finish before the production team could start filming. But yeah, it was a little easier to manage because I was able to leave to go and teach at the college and then kind of come back, and but yeah, it was a lot.
It wasn't my first set, but it was, I would say organization is the only way to survive, but team. You had to trust your team and understand that they were going to do their job, and it was stressful because if you saw a ball hit the floor, and I think we all would see different balls from different teams, and you're like struggling with how do I help? Do you want help? But there was an interesting focus on team, and I think everyone did an amazing job at playing their roles and also picking up the balls and helping everyone else play their roles, because I think everyone on the stage did more than just their job on this set.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, so by day, I'm a full-time teacher, and there were in between, it's like doing 2 full-time jobs at the same time, especially as production coordinator, because I did wind up venturing, like Bigby said, and we wore a lot of hats. We wound up taking on catering for a couple days each week, and you're catering for 70 people, where you think there's only like maybe 4 food allergies that you really need to worry about. It becomes it doubles, that you all of a sudden for 70 people have to cater to now, 5 to 10 food allergies. So that was always fun. But in between my teaching, which fortunately it was online, in between that, I'm making phone calls to actors, making sure they're actually showing up to the airport when they're supposed to, because we did have one moment where one actor, one of the stunties, kind of forgot their plane. And there's only so many flights to Reading. So they had the Velo flight, and I know we're going to be moving into stories at some point, but this one just kind of stood out because for some, just some of the chaos that just happened. Yeah, taking transpo, picking up from the airport at 6 a.m. after being awake until like 3, doing, coordinating something, cooking, or cooking 2 o'clock in the morning delivery time. But yeah, one of them missed the Burbank flight, which was the only flight going out for Avello. And I was like, let me check United, let me just see. And sure enough, 4 hours later, there's a United flight at LA airport. I'm like, you better get your butt over there right now because we need you on set tomorrow. So in between teaching, there were some moments that in between teaching, I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. Because I'm just like, will they just show up? And I'm like, you're leaving for the airport. Like multiple times they had to then come later on. I was like, you're leaving right now, right? So yeah, having this, from interpreters to this production, we went from interpreters being, I think, a 6-person team to actually having a much larger team. to then also their goal of having trucks and trailers was their dream, and we finally got our trucks and trailers. But like he had mentioned earlier, like before this all started, it's like with trucks and trailers comes many issues, because a lot of people you learn don't like all the trucks and trailers. So in their neighborhood, especially when we're kind of crashing town, so the things you learn, the chaos that, you know, develops in a moment's notice, yeah, it's just, you learn to get through. So, and it was this team that honestly really helped it all just work, so.
The news likes trucks and trailers.
Yeah.
I'll interject. Vocational is good, encouraging, basically trying to get people up here, or people who are here to get trained in various aspects of working on the set. That always helps. That also can encourage IA to come up here, IATSE, which is a good thing. Encouraging IATSE actually to maybe do a seminar up here for people who are interested in that world. Because if you're working up here in Northern California, you're working on sets, and you are a member of IATSE, you can work anywhere in the country, ultimately. And people do need people to shoot all over the place. Idaho, Oregon, you're very close to those regions. So people would be very interested, especially when they feel there's a little bit more of a kind of a network, a security of some system like that. And an IA can also give people a little bit of an understanding of like set protocol that may not be able to be taught very easily in a school. The other thing I would suggest is maybe politically, trying to find a way to propose a bill that would appropriate the tax incentives that are currently in place in California, just for Northern California. So saying we're going to put a moratorium on how much you can spend in Southern California. And so take a chunk of that and make sure that part of the tax incentives, those tax dollars that we're all spending on, go strictly and only towards productions that move to Northern California. That is an idea. And that can be done through your democracy. So anything's possible. It just depends on who you lobby. Sure, of course. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Colin. I had the pleasure of dying twice in your guys' movie.
Hell yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
Hooray.
I'm always trying to like look for different opportunities to be in this industry. I like to make short films. I do videography work and just try to get my hands involved in anything I can. As a young man who's trying to get into this industry, I want to write and direct. What's your advice for someone like me who's trying to get into your guys' shoots, basically?
You're the writer and director. As a writer and director, right?
Yeah.
I'll say something out.
Just write something, grab a camera, shoot it. I'll just do it. And
do it over and over and over and over
until you're happy with it. And don't worry about whether it's a failure or not. Makes no difference. Just do it. Grab a camera, maybe write something relatively simple that you feel comfortable with, and make sure it's your vision, something that you care about, that you want to tell everybody else. That's about it. And of course, it costs money sometimes to do things, but try to find an inexpensive way because, you know, especially as an artist, you know, we're all broke usually. So try it.
Yeah, and I would say link up with good people. You know, I linked up with him a long time ago, and that was transformative for my life, I would say. But yeah, just keep making things.
Yeah, and really improve the combination between what your style is and your craft, and then share it, see how it goes. You know, it's just really about sitting around and actually concentrating and doing the work. And then experimenting. Don't be afraid to go outside of the box and do something different. You don't have to copy everybody else either. So just do your thing. Try it. You know, and tell a good story. Or something that has an interesting idea in it.
Thank you guys.
Hi there. So, as an extra on your guys' film, I had the unique pleasure of being on set for 4 days, and I just had an absolute blast. And there are certain scenes while I was there on set that stand out as my favorite that I was able to either be a part of or witness. Are there scenes for you guys, either as an actor, a director, a set designer, or a costume designer that stand out as your favorite during the shooting of this film?
I have one, and I'm super, 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 super proud of Jessica Fletcher and Jesse Myers for we had to build an apartment inside of a warehouse and have rain come streaming down the windows. And they did it, and it looks amazing. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the set too, Fletch. I mean, the set, all of it looked really, really good.
I'd like to speak to that.
Please do.
I was so excited about this set. It was the most, it's my couch. It's my couch pulled from my home, used in the film. Couple chairs, couple tables. I mean, like, we really, when we say this is a lower budget, I mean, I was pulling furniture from my house for this thing. So I really wanted to be there, and then it ended up being, I think, tail end of when I got COVID. Yeah. And it was the one day that I couldn't be there, so it was like, everybody just please take care of my furniture. Like, it was awful. But I wish I saw pictures. I can't wait to see it on film.
Yeah. I got something for you.
Did we destroy anything?
Yeah, did we break anything? No. We're not talking about you. Did your couch survive?
No, my house totally survived.
No,
You
your
guys-
couch. Your couch.
Yeah, my couch survived. You guys were gentle with my couch. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
I think we had 2 more hands up, so we'll take those questions, and then you guys, after that, are welcome to network and ask questions afterwards. So
Yeah, please.
the 2 that have their
I had a story,
real quick.
And I just wanted to say, Tyler produced that featurette we all saw earlier, and I got goosebumps watching that, thinking of all the times we had on set, all the hard work, all the amazing sets that were built, all the locations we went to that I sourced, and so much of it was here in town. And Tyler and Michael of Archetype Pictures are just so talented, so it's really amazing that they're willing to film here in the North State. And they've already done 2 projects, and this one, as probably many of you know, has gotten a lot of notoriety. So for me, I was so busy that I was never really on set. And this was only my 2nd film, and I walked by set all the time, but I had so much to do to prep for what's going to happen the next week, the next day.
You were always going somewhere.
That's true. I didn't want to sit in one spot. I had too much to do. But we were at Reading Convention Center for like 3 nights, I think, in a row. And independent filmmaking, you have to work some crazy hours because oftentimes to where you want to film or shoot, you need to do it at night. And even if it needs to be day, you pretend, right? You work around that. So we had 3 really tough nights at the convention center just because of the weather and the long hours. And one of the only times I was on set for about 10 minutes, I was watching Tyler. There was a scene, and it was on the archway over the convention center. And Linus Roach is one of the actors in the movie, and I don't know if any of you have seen his work, but he's a really good actor. And there's a show called Vikings, which was my favorite show of all time. And yeah, you have the beard too, right there. I saw you come and you look like we have Vikings. So he plays a character, I think 3 seasons on that show. So Linus was leading in his role in this film, was leading the scene. And we had a lot of stunt actors, and there's probably 5 actors on it, including Tyler. And it's cold, and it's like 2 in the morning or something. And I'm right by camera, which Michael doesn't really like someone so close to me. If you don't need to be on set, don't. But I wanted to be like 3 feet away. And I saw Linus, and he was just trying to pump up everyone, trying to get their energy up. And he was just being silly, and he was waving his fake assault rifle around. And it was just a really touching moment to see an actor like that trying to keep everyone in the scene with them motivated. And I think you remember that scene. I mean, just you and him were like no one really speaking, and that was just a magical moment.
You guys were in a Tesla, right?
I was going to say, that was the night we discovered that Teslas have the fart button. And when you honk the horn, it farts, and we were cracking up. It was like 3 in the morning.
That was the fart.
It was amazing. But yeah, no, that was an interesting evening. But you're welcome to stand behind the camera anytime.
Indie film is extremely tough to pull off. It's really hard. You don't have corporate backing at all. It's just you I mean, there's an advantage, there's a beauty to that, but it's also extremely difficult. You're very limited. You have to work really hard. It's hard. But, you know, we're crazy enough to do it during a pandemic. So that's bad shit, by the way.
My name is Lindsay Foe, and I just want to say thank you for coming here and doing this because I'm a huge fan of sci-fi movies, and this is the tone is great. It's got like a really gritty, futuristic, atmospheric look to it, and you nailed it. And it's for this is like very early in your kind of almost first time for some of you, and this is really great. And I can relate to your story a bit because I'm born and raised right here in Red Bluff, and it's like my dream to be a director and a writer and an actress, and it's like and seeing you like do this entire huge sci-fi movie out of like this small community is just really great. And I did a little research on, only a little, not a lot, not gonna lie, before this panel, but so amazing, like one of the main characters in this movie is like a mercenary, right? And there's kind of, I guess there's a stereotype of it just being like the cold, hired gun character, but notice like this looks like it's gonna have like a lot of heart to it, and obviously the cast is great, and there's a lot of love done to it, you've done a lot of work, and the reason why I want to make movies is because there's so many. I love that they can just make you feel so much, and you can take away a lot of great things about it, and it can inspire you to do some things, even if they're not necessarily movies. And so I wanted to ask, like, what is like the driving force for what kind of vision do you want to put out, or what makes you have an idea and be like, oh, I want to put this out there and make it like this entire beautiful world. And also, how do you stay on budget? How do you keep that like this huge thing on, and like
Try.
You want to be on budget, but yeah, it's.
You can ask
you
kind of stay on budget.
She doesn't want.
She's the one that was in charge of it.
I came in under budget.
I think there were 2 people that did, and you were one of 2.
We didn't.
I didn't have a budget.
She stayed under budget.
Actually, we were there on a turkey. How'd I do?
I'm joking, Jesse.
You're good at your budget, actually. But
No one's supposed to like the accountant.
That's true. I would like to hear on your question for Michael, what was the driving force behind the Dresden Sun? Why the Dresden Sun? Why would you make this movie? What was the?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. That's the artistic one. Well, there's a lot of things that go into that. Society is part of that. The world we currently live in, the zeitgeist of the world we live in. And that's been observing that for about 20, 30 years, since I was a kid. A lot of those ideas kind of go into there. There's esoteric ideas in it. There are questions about reality and things like that, I think, that are pertinent. Art is another reason. And art, I think, is part of that process, trying to understand and express ideas. And there's a lot of ideas in Dresden Sun that are reflective of our world today, and I think those are interesting things to communicate. And I think that cinema, specifically cinema, and I also think there are other mediums that do this pretty well, but they are about communicating that. And go outside the corporate crap, the distribution, the money, forget all that stuff. In the grand scheme of history, art is a driving force. It's a communicative device for people to express their ideas and their consciousness. And sure, that is a huge aspect to why I personally was crazy enough to even commit to doing these kinds of things. So Dresden Sun deals with themes of oppression, themes of corruption, science, technology, interdimensional reality, things like that, corporatocracy. And also it deals with grief and loss, our feelings about that, and, do we need to live in a violent world? And you were talking about the mercenary. Well, I always found it interesting that in a world where that has to be a staple, somebody chooses to do it with a non-violent approach, which is interesting. More of a pacifist approach, like Wing Chun, Kung Fu. It's more about giving back the violence as opposed to actually hurting anyone. Well, you're going to hurt somebody when you do this kind of stuff, regardless. But they're not killing anybody. So I found it to be an interesting theme. When you're playing video games, sometimes you have an option to actually get through the game, especially if it's a violent one, to do it stealth and to do it non-violent, which is very hard to do. It is incredibly challenging. So one of the things I think is interesting is if somebody actually chose to do that in a world of black operations and mercs, to do it that way, they're vulnerable more than anybody. So that's really an interesting skill to acquire in a world where it's much easier to just pull the trigger. So I found that to be a fascinating compliment to someone who's kind of taking a Zen approach to a inherently nihilistic, dystopian world. Anyway, those are some of the thoughts that I have to share about that. There's a lot more. Anyway, thanks for asking.
I think just overall, because you're interested in writing, you're interested in directing, and I think the biggest thing is you have a voice that deserves to be heard, and how you choose to express it is a personal choice. And as long as you can move one person, it's worth it. And as long as you're conveying exactly the meaning and the vision that you personally have, it's worth it. So just give it a shot. Just do it.
All right, well, okay, our last question.
Oh, hi. I just want to piggyback off of Colin's question from earlier. It's directed to Michael and Tyler. I want to know how important, in your opinion, should someone attempting to pursue a career in filmmaking invest their time in film festivals, and if it's actually worth it rather than being a behind-the-scenes person? And if there are any other outlets that you recommend that we could look into in order to move forward?
I would say Michael and I are not film festival darlings. We've gotten into two. We won those two, but those are we've probably been submitted 40 times. We got into two.
Yeah.
So I think festivals are a wonderful way of networking again. And if you're lucky enough to create something, not lucky, you work hard enough to create something that gets you noticed at a film festival, it could really help. But
it's a positive.
It's a
there's
positive.
There's a marketing aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
And it's nice to get the accolades, perhaps, because it's what you would call reassuring. So it's confirming an audience actually responds to something that you're doing for them. But in the end, I mean, ultimately, if you can get your film off the ground, if you can get financing for your film, and you can sell it to the world, as they'd say today, in this cycle, we sell things. So if you can get it out there and sustain your budget, logically and economically, and continue to do that, then you can continue to make your films.
Yeah.
Regardless of what medium you give it to it, it's irrelevant. What matters is you do it and put it out there, and eventually somebody will catch on. There's, 8 billion people in the world? There's a lot of people who watch things today. And if you've got something that's very compelling, you can put it anywhere in the world. The United States is not the only place that watches cinema. As a matter of fact, I would say cinema is quite popular outside the United States, more so nowadays than it ever has been. And a part of that has to do with China's really jumped into this game pretty significantly, so that's a market. But, wherever you put your audience, whether it's on video, whether it's in a festival, it depends, it's up to you. There is one thing that, there's a caveat with festivals, they cost money. So let's say you want to put 100 festivals, and the average price to submit is $60, $70. It's pricey. So if you're broke, which I've been broke many times, so trying to get money to pay for that shit, it's expensive. You're like, oh, I can't do that. I can't even afford it. But sometimes it's no big deal. But there's an advantage to it. Plus, if you go to them, I think that's really more the event of it. The culture of it is fun. So people get to share their love of cinema. So that's always a plus, and you get to meet like-minded people in those worlds. But ultimately, there's plenty of people who've done no festivals. And they've done films, and they wrote something really good. And somebody liked it. And they promoted, they gave it to an agent, or they gave it to a production company, and they just pushed, and they got really good at it. And somebody said, well, who cares? I want to make this film. Because they're inspired by it. There's plenty of films that we all love that came from kind of nowhere, that that did not necessarily start from a festival. They didn't start from anywhere. And somebody just had a passion for it. They gave it to the right person, or it somehow just found its way. And that became RoboCop. You know what I mean? Because some guy was sitting in an executive meeting who used to be an executive development guy. And he just said, I'm inspired, and got it out there somehow. And he didn't do any of that stuff. And they made an iconic film out of it. You know, that's just one example of thousands. But the point I'm making is, you know, it depends on where you want to put it. And you can still sustain a film, make it out there. It's up to you. So, yeah, that's my thoughts, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you get an award from a festival, especially if it's a top tier one, that doesn't hurt. It can develop trust actually with some cast members that are pretty, you know, well known, and then they say, I want to work with that person. So that is an advantage. So if you like won a big award, Sundance or Tribeca, it's called street cred. It's pretty much it. You know. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
I think that's good.
Well, I'd just like to give all of you another round of applause. And Dan's going to close us out if I can get off here without that.
So what an informative and inspiring evening this has been. Again, thanks to this panel and the earlier panel. Thanks to all of you for coming. I hope that you have some takeaway from this and that everybody gets out there and makes films. We find a way to get stuff up here. You got some great suggestions on things to do to kind of help bring productions up here and bring some talent, you know, that's from up here to be into those things. I know an actor who'd like to be in them. Anyway, so thanks again for being here tonight. We're going to do some networking out there in the lobby and make sure you get some snacks and water and pick up things off the tables. Thanks again for being here. Give yourself a big round of applause.